when Comrade Adams Oshomle was the governor of this state, he renovated this place. I could remember the former commissioner, Clemagba, what he did here. He changed the face of this place. But today is a different story.
Thanks for clicking on this channel. Please subscribe to FO's blog history and click on the notification button so that whenever we upload a new video you will be notified. The wickedness of Obaseki towards the Oba of Benin and Benin people has never been heard, seen, or witnessed in the history of Benin Kingdom. Obaseki shut down Oba Akenzua Cultural Center permanently. The Oba Akenzua Cultural Center was once a bubbling place for socio-cultural and other indoor activities. As I am speaking, Governor Obaseki has shut it down permanently. How did this wickedness start? It started when some European countries promised to return Benin artifacts. The British looted from the palace of the Oba of Benin in the 1897 invasion of the Benin Kingdom. At first, Obaseki was cooperating with the palace to get the artifacts. At the time he discovered that he would not be able to lay hands on the artifacts, and the Oba Akenzua Cultural Center has been proposed to be used as a temporary place, where the returned Benin artifacts would be kept. He was now angry. He revoked the contract given to the Palace of Oba of Benin to manage the cultural center. After the revocation of the contract, Obaseki abandoned the center. This is how it started. In 2021, the then Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, announced the expected repatriation of stolen Benin artifacts from Germany and the United Kingdom, following successful negotiations between both governments and representatives of the Benin Palace. In the same year, Oba Elwahe II proclaimed the dreams and designs of a Benin Royal Museum, opposite the palace by his father, Oba Ihediowa of blessed memory, with Governor Godwin Obaseki in agreement. In spite of the foregoing, Governor Obaseki secretly registered Legacy Restoration Trust, with a non-indigenous chairman of his board of trustees, to amongst others, coordinate the return and supervise the use of the repatriated Benin artifacts at a different location, determined and being built by Obaseki as Edo Museum of West Africa Arts, EMOA. This is the former site of the Benin Central Hospital now demolished. Oba Elwahe II showed his resentment at Obaseki's attempt to usurp the powers of the palace in a BBC report in 2022. We were never a party to this concept of Legacy Restoration Trust, or any other privately constituted group formed in Nigeria to negotiate the return of our artifacts. It is baffling to discover that such a group was incorporated in Nigeria, without the knowledge or representation of the Royal Court of Benin. At this point, Obaseki declared full-scale war by sealing off the Oba Akenzua Cultural Center, proposed by the Oba to temporarily warehouse the Benin artifacts, before the completion of the Benin Royal Museum. The center is now a shadow of itself with overgrown bushes and trees. Obaseki scaled up his war by instructing the Ministry of Lands not to approve any design for the Benin Royal Museum, or any other such building at the proposed site of the Benin Royal Museum. His war with the palace is being waged on multi-dimensional fronts. Suddenly, he realizes the need to promote his divide-and-rule system of administration, all in an attempt to whittle down the powers of Oba Elwahe II, the Oba of Benin. Obaseki met with selected Enigi in Edo South in Government House, led by Professor Greg Akenzua, the Enogie of Ebwobanosa and Abudu, to agree on the mode of implementation of the 1979 Edict, Traditional Rulers and Chieftaincy Law. By the interpretation of Obaseki and Akenzua, the law grants Enigi independence from the Oba of Benin in the 7 local government areas of Edo South. The allocation to the Enigi, hitherto tied to the palace of the Oba, must now be withdrawn from the Oba, and paid directly to them by the state government. By this, Obaseki has taken it upon himself to grant financial autonomy to the Enigi, an action that is both legislative and executive. Obaseki did not stop there. He proceeded to brainwash the Enigi that they are now under the state government and not the Oba of Benin. Essentially, they can only be disciplined, enthroned, and dethroned by the state government. The Enigi have thus been emboldened. Outraged by the behavior of the Enigi, Oba Elwahe II reprimanded Professor Greg Akenzua and Ido Mwanyi Iduozel, the Enigi of Ebwobanosa and Elgbahen respectively, for leading government-orchestrated rebellion against the palace. They were suspended. the Enigi dragged the Oba to court for suspending them, arguing that it is only the governor who can suspend them. When the news of this outrage came out, a storm of indignation burst forth. Benin's sons and daughters at home and in the diaspora stood solidly behind their monarch. They were solidly against the idea of the balkanization of the Benin kingdom for Obaseki's personal interest. Obaseki and his co-travelers suddenly realized that they have embarked on the path of self-destruct. In their panic measures, they must quickly embark on telling lies even from the pit of hell. They say Obaseki had no hand on their going to court. After all, Obaseki is also a defendant in their suit. Whom the gods want to kill, they first make him mad. Besides, the Bible makes it abundantly clear that God uses the most foolish things to confound the wise, 1 Corinthians 1 verse 27. Even before firing the first salvo, Obaseki and his co-travelers have become unbelievably naive and incoherent. Otherwise, why would Obaseki and his co-travelers want a case in which Obaseki is a defendant withdrawn and brought to him for settlement? Let him keep denying it. For all we know, the more he denies, the more he gets implicated. And what gives Obaseki the right to believe that he can sit in judgment, in his rented apartment, in a case involving his imperial majesty? What a raw audacity! Obaseki is not done yet. He is still fighting like a wounded lion, and we hear that there's no stopping him until the palace of the Oba is totally desecrated. He has banned the Okegele, an age-long institution created by the great Obas of Benin and a potent instrument of administration in the palace. That may be Obaseki's very albatross. In this war of attrition against the palace, it is instructive that Obaseki is using what the Oba has to fight the Oba. It bears repeating that the artifacts in question were the properties of the palace. They were carted away from the palace during the Benin invasion of 1897 under the reign of Oba Obenramwen Nordbezi. It has taken this long and years of intense negotiations for a reason to begin to prevail on the looters to bend backward to start repatriating some of the artifacts. In the reckoning of people of goodwill, it makes sense to expect these artifacts to be returned to the palace from where they were removed. That is simply what Oba El-Wahid II is saying. But in the twisted minds of Obaseki and his cohorts, dangerous maneuvers must be embarked upon to divert the artifacts and expropriate same to themselves. If this is not stealing by trick, what is it? Take a look again at section 41(9) of Nigeria's criminal code and see what the law says about reaping where you did not sow. Again, in Benin Kingdom, dukedoms are creations of the Oba and the dukes, Enigi, are appointees of the Oba. This is one area where His Imperial Majesty, Oba Ehediahuwa, was most benevolent. He created many dukedoms and sent his brothers to be his eyes in those dukedoms. In the turn of events, these are the same people that Obaseki has brainwashed and put on his front line in the fight against the Oba. Luckily, the Oba cannot be swayed into doing wrong. Otherwise, he might begin to think twice about doing good. It might begin to appear like pocketing a small snake out of kindness, and one would soon find that there are limits to kindness. To us, at FO's blog, the Benin monarch is untouchable. Like the British monarch, he does no wrong. History is replete with the fact that those who touch him invariably have their fingers burnt. After all, he is God's representative on earth. Some governors are known to have existed peacefully with their monarchs. Yet, with others, it has been a cat and rat race all through. The reasons for the latter should be a good subject for further investigation. Meanwhile, we work on a hypothesis that sees the towering image of the monarchs as a potential threat to some politicians, like Obaseki. The reaction of such governors is, in this light, seen as a defense mechanism. The monarchs are the hubs around which the generality of the citizenry must revolve. At the slightest opposition, attacking the king is like reaching for the moon, and if you miss, you get at the stars. In any case, Obaseki should know that there is no escaping the inevitable conclusion that there is life after the completion of his tenure. In the end, nobody will be credited with the number of institutions he pulled down or the number of souls he destroyed. Rather, people will be judged by the improvement they brought to humanity while their tenures lasted. We make bold to say that Edo is not Kano. In the particular case of the Benin Kingdom, we have come a long way from 1897 when virtually everything was possible. Please watch the video and see what Obaseki has turned Oba Akenzuwa cultural to, because of Benin artifacts.
Sons and daughters living all over the world. We cannot keep quiet. We must say the way it is. Fair is fair. This is not fair. We must stand to defend what is wrong and protect our legacy. This is a legacy. This is a building built by somebody who governed this state. Rather for you to allow it to work, you have worked against the success of moving this state forward. How can you close, how can you shut down Oba Akenzuwa Cultural Center? It is our own heritage. It is something we should be proud of. Rather than to be proud of having this kind of building, to maintain it, when Comrade Adams Oshomole was the governor of this state, he renovated this place. I could remember the former commissioner, Clemagba, what he did here. He changed the face of this place. But today is a different story. This is totally wrong. As a Edo son and daughter, we must not accept this. You be the judge if this is right. Just because it was given to the Oba, Ogiedo, Ogioba or Ogiedo. Yes. Yes, madam.